Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Actually It's Amira, where I talk everything news, celebrity gossip, YouTube drama. If you name it, I talk about it because I always like to know what's going on out here in these streets. I like to bring my unique perspective on popular emerging topics here on YouTube. And I like to talk about things from a psychological perspective, from a therapeutic perspective, and just kind of what I think is going on behind the scenes, in front of the scenes, which I don't know what is really going on. Yeah, I like to kind of give my unique perspective that way. But as always, please be reminded that everything I say here on this channel is allegedly, and it is just my opinion. Why? Because I do not know these people. Let me say it one more time. I do not know these people, so my opinions are just that, my opinions. But if you came here, it's because you want to know what I think is going on because you might be on the same wavelength as me. So let's talk about it. So today's topic is all about 5 things Blac Chyna must prove in order to win against the Kardashians. So let's get into it. If you aren't living under a rock, you would know that Blac Chyna is suing Kris Jenner, Kim Kardashian, Khloe Kardashian, Kylie Jenner, and I think that's it. Those are the ones that are mostly named in the suit for upwards of $100 million. Why? For canceling her hit TV show, Rob and China. At the time when that TV show was airing, it was bringing in an average of 2.7 million viewers per episode. It was the number one hit show on the E series at that time. It had the Sunday time slot before they slid them Kardashians to that Thursday slot. Y'all remember that one time the Kardashians got booped? They got booped. One knocked over the cuckoo's nest, slid into that Thursday. Yes. Rob and China was dominating that Sunday night television. They were trending on Twitter. They had an audience and people were here for it. Call it messy, call it sloppy, call it what you want to call it. I too was tuned in to Rob and China because it was some good television back when reality TV was popping in that 2016, 2017-ish era. So let's talk about what I think Blac Chyna needs to prove. If I was Blac Chyna's attorney, here's where I would focus the crux of my argument. Now, I am not a lawyer, so this is really just me giving my opinion. If I was a lawyer, if I was a lawyer, what would you do? I'm gonna tell y'all. The first thing I would focus on is intent. The second thing is motive. The third thing is access and opportunity. The fourth thing is contract losses or change in terms in contract. And the fifth thing is similar contracts with examples. So let's talk about intent. If I was Blac Chyna's lawyer, the first thing I would prove is that Kim, Kris, and Kylie had the intent to harm and or destroy and defame my character. And I would focus on building cases and finding evidence or discovery, as the lawyers would call it, proving that they had an issue with my character, right? They didn't like me as a person. They thought I was a hooker or a hoe. They thought it was a hoochie. They disparaged my character, even if it was amongst themselves. They defamed me in the media, whether it was a TMZ, Variety, People magazine. I would be searching for every shred of evidence that I could find in discovery, showing that they had contact with outside news sources with the intent of defaming my character. So the first thing you got to do is prove the story, right? If you want the jury to buy into it, prove the story, right? Did they have the intent to harm you? And if you want to prove intent, you got to prove that they was plotting on you for a long time. Like they didn't just wake up one day and wild out. They had to have been plotting, right? They needed motive. What was the motivation? That brings me to point two. What was the motivation behind their action and behaviors? Were they motivated by jealousy? And if I was their lawyer, I would prove that it was jealousy. Because if you can prove that they somehow felt threatened by my time slot, by the amount of people who was viewing my show, or by my retweets and or analytics, I think you can make a compelling case to the jury. So prove that they were jealous of you, right? Prove that they wanted to harm your character and improve the jealousy. So you would need information saying that they were following my analytics, right? So text messages or exchanges between them and the E network asking about how my show was doing, right? Asking about the data points, asking about whether or not their time slot was going to come back from mine, asking about my renewals. You would have to show that they were intently interested in whether or not your show was going to succeed or felt in comparison to, because that's the key word, comparison to keeping up with the Kardashians. Because I think the true argument here, because I believe Kris had points on that show as an executive producer. So did Chyna, so did Robin, so did Kim. I believe you have to prove that they were jealous that you were going to overpower their show. So you need to find evidence in which they are comparing the analytics between Robin, Chyna, and Keeping Up with the Kardashians. That would be my second point of focus if I was Chyna's attorney. My third point of focus would be the close personal relationship. That would be my third point of focus. Why? I would want to prove that Ryan Seacrest and Kris Jenner have a close, personal, intimate relationship, and that she had the power to influence decisions on behalf of that show. And she had the power to terminate shows based on her own perception or feelings about the characters on that show. That would be something that I would have to prove. And how would you do it? Going through the discovery, right? Did Kris Jenner send any disparaging comments to Ryan Seacrest or to the E Network regarding Robin Chyna and about whether or not that show should be renewed despite its prior performance as a successful hit series? That would be my third point. Fourth point, we're going to talk about contract loss or change in contract terms. That is something I will focus on as well. Can Chyna prove that her contracts were substantially altered as a result of her losing her position on that show? And to do that, she's going to need to have comparative analysis, right? So here's a contract I received while my show was airing. It was worth, let's say, $150,000, right? I was solicited to be an ambassador for XYZ company for $150,000. After my show got canceled, here's my offer now. It's down to $25,000, right? So you would have to have several data points proving that your contract terms either altered, changed, or were no longer valid as a result of you losing your time slot. That is going to be a huge, 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 huge milestone that Chyna is going to have to hit. Change in terms or contract loss. The next thing is to prove that she stopped receiving contracts once her show got canceled. That's something else she could focus on. Like if she can say, hey, look, while I was on E, I had 10, 15 contracts. People were reaching out to me to do party promotions. I was in the clubs, blah, blah, blah. Here's all the business opportunities I had. And now I don't have those business opportunities. That's going to be a strong and compelling case. Very strong and compelling case. And the last thing I want to say is I hope that Chyna gets a fair and impartial jury, because that's going to be also very important in whether or not her case gets heard fairly and whether or not she wins, right? So if I was Linciani, which is I believe her attorney, I would be asking that jury some serious questions. How do you feel about pornography? How do you feel about exotic dancers? How do you feel about reality TV? How do you feel about Bad Girls Club? How do you feel about the Kardashians? How do you feel about people using their influence to promote their body and their sexuality? My jury selection would be very focused on people's biases as it relates to women expressing their sexuality as freely as they choose. That's going to be key, because if you find a jury that's partial to people expressing their sexuality, then Chyna might not get a fair and just due process throughout the jury selection, and that can significantly impact her case. So if I was Siani, I would be focused on that. Like I'm asking y'all the tough questions. Do you read TMZ? Do you read Neighborhood Talk? Are you in the Shade Room? Do you watch YouTube? Do you watch Tasha K? Do you watch Hollywood Unlocked? Do you know who Jason Lee is? Are you focused on the blogs? Like, are you messy? Are you messy? Right? Because to some degree, you want somebody who um kind of knows how the Kardashians get down, and but not so much that they believe the hype, right? You don't want an ignorant person, because the ignorant person is going to be like, oh, she's just trying to sue some rich people because they have money. No, you want somebody who's kind of in the know, but not so much that it's going to, like, they're a massive Kardashian fan, or they believe everything they hear in TMZ. Like, you know what TMZ is, but like, do you really believe everything these people say? And do you believe that people have the power to influence the media and to plant stories and push narratives about people that may not be true? That is something I would definitely be focused on if I was Tiani, Blac Chyna's lawyer. Like, I'm asking you the tough questions, and I want to make sure my client is going to get a fair and impartial jury. And I'm also going to make sure that my evidence is lined up to the T. No cracks. You're going to have to come with the data, the analytics, and the facts. Because if I'm in the jury box and I'm going to weigh in on whether or not you should get $100 million, you're going to have to prove to me in the jury box that you had lucrative contracts that were terminated, that were null and void, or that were no longer valid as a result of your dismantling of your show, Rob and China. I'm gonna need the evidence if I was in the jury box. And if you can provide that evidence, then you got an easy win and an easy vote for me. Because I do believe that they influence the media, and they also influence her show to be canceled. That's my personal opinion. I definitely think they did it, but it's one thing to know something. It's a whole nother thing to be able to prove it. And it's one thing I will say, it's not about what you know, it's about what you can prove in court. It's about what you can prove in court. You can know a lot of things, but if you can't prove it, you can't win. That's how OJ got off. Mostly everybody was like, we don't know. We kind of slick think homeboy did it, but they couldn't prove it. It was too much reasonable doubt. And when you got reasonable doubt, you leave room for interpretation. And if I was Siani, I don't want no room for interpretation as China's attorney. If this thing is gonna be handed to you on a silver platter with a bow on top. And I think they got a very strong case because they rejected the settlement offer that the Kardashians put forward. But I do want to say the Kardashians must think that they somehow have a case because when China counteroffered, they rejected her counteroffer allegedly. So I think both people got some evidence on their weight, but I think China might have a little bit more. Because if China had a weak case, her attorneys would have been pushing her to take that settlement offer or to counter at a little bit of a lower amount so that they can get this out of court quickly and that she can just collect her coin and go on home. Now, that's what I think China's going to have to prove in order to win against the Kardashians. And for the Kardashians, they got a similar case. They are going to have to prove that Blac China faced no economic loss as a result of them canceling her show. So if I were them and if I was on that side of the house, I would be digging up every contract she ever got after that show. I want to see her bank statements. I want to see her deposits. I want to see all the credits and debits that was flowing through to make sure that she wasn't still getting compensated after she claimed she lost money as a result of us not renewing her season. I'm going to be digging all through your financials, boo boo. You're going to have to provide that paperwork. So China, I'm sure her attorney informed her that when they advised her to reject that settlement offer, they informed her to listen. They did the forensics, and you came out clean, boo. You clean on the other side. So that's gonna be the number one burden they're gonna have to prove, and then they're gonna have to also prove that E made the decision independent of their influence, right? Like E News made this decision independent of our influence and of our opinions. And I think that's going to be tough to prove for the Kardashians because they have intertwined themselves so deep into the E network that when you think of E, you think of the Kardashians. You think of E, you think of Ryan Seacrest. Like, I think of Juliana Rancic, Ryan Seacrest, and the Kardashians when you say E News to me. That's the only three things that come to my mind. Juliana Rancic ain't got nothing to do with this. She long gone. Ryan Seacrest, well, you know how he feels about Kris Jenner. They longtime friends, they locked and loaded, and they made their relationship, their public intimate, not sexually, but public intimate relationship, very known throughout the media. So you can't really separate that for your convenience. And they have proven time and time again that E News has an inside scoop into what's going on with the Kardashians before any other major news outlet. They break more stories on the Kardashians than anyone else. So I think it's going to be very difficult to prove that they're joint and several, like they're not joint and severally liable. It's going to be very difficult to prove it because they've made themselves sort of intertwined. And Kris has not been shy about stroking her own ego and shoving her own influence over the network, all over the airways. So that's going to be a tough one. I think China has a lot more things in her favor as long as she can prove that economic loss. I think the Kardashians will be cutting her a check. Now, how big that check will be is going to depend. But I'm going to say my spidey senses are tingling. And I think China has a strong case of walking away with at least $10 million. Unless, of course, she's making something crazy up. I think China will walk away with a minimum of $10 million. And honestly, that's got to make for a pretty awkward Thanksgiving for Dream. I wonder if she was invited to Easter. Do y'all think she was invited to Easter? Like, I'm curious, was she invited to Easter? Because Kris threw this very extravagant Easter party, and I was thinking to myself, did they invite little Dreamy? And how awkward it must be to be at the dinner table, like, oh shoot, we being sued by your mama. Like, Auntie China is suing us. Like, we are legitimately being sued by your mama. And at some point, I wonder if Chris, Kim, and Kylie got together and was like, should we just cut Chyna this check and go on home? Because at the end of the day, we really just keeping the money in the family, because this is Dream's financial future that's on the line here. It's not like Rob got racks on racks on racks. It's not like he racking in millions. Rob's retirement plan is Kris Jenner's death. If you want to call a thing, Kris Jenner got an ill life insurance policy, in my opinion. And I think Rob Kardashian Jr. has said my retirement policy is my mother's death. One of my sisters getting knocked off, somebody having an accident, God forbid, and that's how I'm gonna make it. Because they all wrote me in the will and they all got me on the policy. I'm in everybody policy. So he hoping on a miracle. It's not like he got any coins rolling around. He's surviving on hope and wing and prayer. So honestly, if you want to call a thing, you might need to cut Chyna that check to secure the bag for little Dreamy, because she innocent in this whole matter. She is an innocent little baby. But anywho, that's my opinion on what I think Chyna needs to prove in court if she wants to win against these Kardashians, and if she wants to make sure that she keeps her seat at the table. I think she has a great case. Let me know down below if you agree or disagree. Do you think Blac Chyna will win in court? Let me know if you agree. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to this channel. And of course, as always, everything I say here is allegedly, because it is just my opinion. I do not know these people. I will talk to you guys next time when there are more updates, and have a great day. Bye.